Okay, so our last topic that we have to do before the STAR test is about transformations. So basically what that means is like instead of a regular graph with just X's and no numbers, when you add numbers to it, what happens to the graph? How does it make the graph move? Okay. So the two types of graphs that they're going to ask us about is quadratics, which we know is the U shape right here, and linear, so just a straight line. So it's either the U shape or the line that we're going to be talking about. So we need to know what the parent function is. The parent function is just what they call the original graph that has no numbers in it. So these are things you're going to have to know so that you're going to be able to type them in the calculator during the test. So for a quadratic, our parent function is just f of x equals x squared. I mean, yes, 2 is a number, but there's no extra numbers. Like there's not a number in the front, there's not a number in the back. Okay, so we know that that usually goes through the middle. It's a U shape, nothing different there. For a regular line, for a linear function, our parent function is just f of x equals x, okay? No numbers, okay? So when you start adding the numbers, all depending on where you put the number in the equation is going to change what the graph looks like. So if you put a number in the front, where a is, in front of the parentheses, you look for two things. The sign, so a positive or negative sign. So if it's a positive, then that means, how does it change the graph? It does not reflect the graph, and it's going to stay a U shape. If it's a negative sign, then that means it is going to reflect over the x-axis, so it's going to flip the graph upside down, and that's how you get the rainbow shape instead of like the smiley face, okay? So that's the sign, the positive or negative. The number, if it's like a 10 or a 5 or a 2, the number does change it. So if it's a number between 0 and 1, which means it's a fraction or a decimal. So if you have like 1/2 x squared, then that's going to make your graph wider than it normally is. So it means it opens, it's really wide opening. It doesn't go up as fast. If your number is bigger than 1, so again, like a 2, a 10, a 55, okay, that's going to make your graph narrower or skinnier. So it opens much closer together. If you put numbers on the inside of these parentheses right here, that's going to move the graph to the left or to the right. How do I know? Well, if it's x plus some number on the inside, then that's going to move it to the left. If it's x minus some number on the inside, that's going to move it to the right. So the key is these numbers happen when the number's inside the parentheses, it moves to the left or the right. If the numbers are on the outside, that is going to move the graph up or down. So again, it's just going to be x squared with no parentheses and the numbers after. Down is when it's no parentheses and it's minus some number. Again, the key is it's on the outside. Now, this seems like a lot of information to like memorize, but the good news is all you have to do is be able to type it in the calculator and look at what happens. So these are like how it is on the STAR test. So it says, choose how the graph of g of x changed from the parent function f of x equals x squared. So then they give us g of x, and then they said it equals 3 f of x. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to type our parent function. You got to type it in because you got to see how it changes. So we would type this. And, hello. We're also going to type this. And you're going to type the entire thing, like the F, the parentheses, the equal sign, blah, blah, blah. You're typing them both in Desmos. And you're going to look at how it's changed. Okay, so here we go. We're going to Desmos. So first we're typing our parent function, which for the U-shaped graph, when it says quadratic, that means x squared. And then we're typing the one from the question. So g of x equals 3 f of x. G of x equals 3 f of x. So the red is our original, The blue is our new graph. So how is it different from the red graph? Well, it's on the inside. It's skinnier. We're noticing it still goes through, like the vertex of the graph is still at the same spot, 0, 0. So how do I answer this question? Did it move? No, it did not shift up or down. So we're crossing out moving up 3 or moving down 3. It did not do that. Reflecting over the x-axis means it would flip upside down like this. Ours did not do that. So we're crossing out C. Narrower, that is the key. Oh, ours is narrower because it's on the inside of the original graph. So that means the answer was D. Okay. You would do the same thing on like number 2. We're still typing in our original parent function. You cannot just type this if you have not typed in something for f. So we're going to go ahead and do this one. So number 2, g of x equals f parentheses 8 minus x. Here we go. So we already have our f, and now we're doing f parentheses. What? I forget. F x minus 8 is on the inside. We type it. So I can see the red is the original. This one, the blue one, moved which way? Well, it moved from the red to the blue. So it moved to the left, to the right. It moved to the right. So that's what I gotta pick. This moved to the right. So I gotta pick the answer that says that it moved to the right. Oh, that's gonna be B. It moved to the right 8 units, and it did. Okay. So you just got to make sure that, like, you cannot type g of x without having something typed for f, okay? Which we're going to see more in the second one. So it says the graph of quadratic parent function f was transformed to create the graph of g of x equals f parentheses x minus 5 plus 1. Which graph best represents g? So at the beginning, when they tell you, oh, the quadratic parent function f, that means you need to know what you're supposed to type for f. So, oh, since it said quadratic, that means x squared. So for f, I need to be typing f of x equals x squared. You need to know that that is what it means. Because I can't just, like, if I just typed g of x, let's see what happens. So if I just type g of x, it helps if I put the letter equals f parentheses x minus 5 plus 1. It does a little exclamation point because you can't, it even says try defining f. You have to type something for f first. So we know since it said quadratic, I'm supposed to do x squared. So we're going to type x squared. And then we're going to type f for g equals x minus 5 plus 1. So they, in our answer choices, they are only showing you the graph of g. So if you want, you can make the graph of it. Like, I don't have to look at the purple graph because that's our parent one. So if I click the color, it will turn it off. And mine just ends up over here. So I need to pick an answer where it ends up over here. Now, you could be saying, oh, the vertex is at 5, 1. So you need to make sure that the answer you pick, the vertex is at 5, 1. This is at negative 5, 1. No. This is at negative 5, negative 1. No. This is at 5, negative 1. No. Oh, this is at 5, 1. Yes, that should be my answer. Okay. Like, these are easy questions because you just have to type it in, but you have to know what to type for f. Okay. The next one says the graph of linear parent function f of f was transformed to create h, which graph best represents h of x equals negative f of x minus 2. So again, we have to read this part up here. Linear parent function f. When it says linear, that tells me, oh, I'm just typing x. So when I type f, what am I supposed to type? I'm supposed to type f of x equals x, because we're talking about lines, not the U shape. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to type this in, and I'm going to type h in. Okay, so this time we're doing f of x equals x. Okay, then they said h of x. Does it matter that they said h instead of g? No, just whatever letter they type, you type. Negative f of x, and I'm typing exactly what I'm seeing. I'm not changing it in any way whatsoever. Okay, now in my answer again, they are only showing me h. So I'm gonna either ignore f, or you can click that one and turn it off. So, okay, I want to pick the graph that is slanting down and goes through the y at 0, -2. Okay, slanting down. So this is slanting down, but this goes through +2. And we want it to go through -2, so that's not right. This is slanting up, so that's not right. B is slanting down, which we like, and it goes to the y at -2, which we also like. So I'm pretty sure this is the answer, but let's just check D. This is slanting up. We don't want that. We want it slanting down, so the answer has to be B. Okay? The biggest keys for these, you need to type both of them in order to get a graph to show up for this. If you have any questions, make sure you're sending a message in the chat if you're trying to type stuff and it's just not working. Okay, otherwise you can go ahead and start the formative.